And good morning, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Undercover ET UK. Bit of a miserable Monday out there, so I thought I'd give you guys something to watch that would might brighten up the day a little bit. We've got some footage from John at Latchkey Hustle, and he put this together about a month or two ago, and I had it on my last channel, so I'm redoing it because this is the new channel, and it's just worthwhile, folks. It's just really good footage. I actually recommend you subscribe to the channel as well. He's quite close to 500 subscribers. I'd love to help get him there. He deserves so much more, and yeah, it's credible footage, folks. So that's why I'm showing it to you today. There he is, Smiley John. I hope you don't mind this screen grab, mate. I thought it was the best one. And it just so happens it starts right at the start of the footage. So just to go over it again, it's skydiver footage. And he's found half of it online himself. He's just pulled footage off YouTube and found these anomalies, and the other half, I guess, has been sent into him. So yeah, let's watch it, folks. Check it out, and I'm going to turn my mic right down while we watch this. Enjoy.
I know, right? You're like, wait, what? Yeah. I'm going to pause this here in a second because I don't know what those two things are above this thing, but they're there. I mean, until they blink out and then pop back in and all that, but there's something there above this thing, whatever this thing is. I know how ridiculous this looks, but hey, if you're gonna get footage of people in the air, you're gonna get footage of their body parts. So it's part of the deal. If you note the position of the sun there, then the reflection off of whatever that is seems to be appropriate. I mean, it's in keeping and consistent with the position of the sun. I obviously don't know what this is, but maybe it's something prosaic and associated with these jumpers. But what is that? These dots or these little things popping in and out, and we see that over and over in this presentation. But that, to me, is the more perplexing part because they're not there and then they're there.
Just want to say something on that. And when John took this and saw this, he's where I'm at. We see these smaller objects around other flying objects that we can't determine. We don't know what they are. And we're seeing these little... I always say it as well, like sometimes we see these objects and it's clear that there's something with it, and it almost looks like it's like a ball or something that just spins around it. These things are never alone, and yeah, you're basically where I'm at, John, because all the footage I see, I tend to see a lot of this, and I have no idea what it is, what the purpose is of it. So maybe it's defensive. Who knows? Let's keep watching now.
I don't know. And I pause this here, not only because of those dot things, but the reflection, just to kind of highlight that. Like, it looks like it should. If there's something big and metallic in the sky where that sun was, that's what it would look like. I mean, to me at least. Okay, so this is from that capture, and I want to bring your attention to these oval shapes here, which are obviously artifacts of the camera interacting with the sunlight. But it's notable for reasons we'll address shortly. Just keep this in mind. Okay, moving on here. This is super interesting. So the same point I made about the reflection and the position of the sun applies here. But also, check this out. And it's pause. Look at these dots. It's almost like a propulsion echo of some sort.
Again, just chipping in, that silver orb there, we've seen time and time again. In virtually every clip that we've seen in the UK, they've been visible. And we've got a few close ups as well, a few still shots where they've just zipped right past the camera lens. But that's really, really cool because you're seeing there in slow motion, in close proximity, that that they're up there. Whatever these things are, they're up there. The silver orbs, I'm on the fence with those. I do believe they're a type of craft or a type of something, but I know for a fact. What I do know is the black orbs, the black translucent orbs that we're seeing, and the white objects which flicker in and out of between white and dark. They are sources, as far as I'm concerned. These silver orbs, no idea what they are.
And this is what I meant when I said that it's a recurring theme that these things are like popping in and out. I mean, it's there and then it's not there. And this back and forth movement is super weird, but we see that multiple times too. You know, I'm sorry to this gentleman. He certainly didn't ask to be featured in this way, but I just don't have the understanding of how to blur his face out, and so sorry for that. But watch this. The thing does this little back and forth thing along the left, and then it hangs a hard turn, and then it speeds up. This is slowed. Look how fast that was. The other thing is, there's no way for me to know how far behind or where in space these things are in relation to these humans in the sky, but they're still there, regardless. It's funny too, because obviously this isn't even my footage, but if it weren't for this, this very fortunate one frame where this thing is clearly behind that man's camera, then there's an argument to be made that this is some nonsense floating right in front of the other person's camera who's actually recording this. But clearly, this thing is behind that person. How far behind is the question?
What I'll say there, and to be honest, like John says, we will never really know how far behind they are. But if they were really far behind at that size, they would be massive objects, and likely there'd have been reports of them seen elsewhere. Also, we know that they get close to objects flying through the sky, so, and I'm sure you're with me on this one, John. A guesstimate would be that they're actually fairly close to these people. I'm talking within sort of 50 to 100 yards at times, which is quite close, to be fair. That's just my guesstimate, but we won't really ever know without being up there and having a proper measurement tool to measure it. So yeah, that's where we're at, folks. Let's continue.
To me, those are kind of menial questions, period. I like to focus on things like this and like, what is this behavior and how is this occurring? I'll tell you too, we film a lot of birds, a lot of insects, a lot of kites, a lot of craft, and none of them present like this. None of them. Before we move on to the next one, I want to kind of pause here and focus on these like three dots behind this thing. Like I said, it's like a propulsion echo or something, but we see this repeatedly. So we're going to return to this actual capture later in this presentation. So this thing sort of drops down from the top, and the best way to show it was to sort of represent it in these three separate installments. I just said it drops down, but that may not be the case. It appears to drop down. It could well be hovering. It's just there's so much movement between the person with the camera and then the jumper. It's really tough to say. But what isn't tough to say is that something's up there. It seems to have a, you know, a fuchsia hue on the left side of it, and it's up there. Yeah. These two oval artifacts are from this last video that we just watched. Just like I said previously with the other one, keep it in mind. This is foundation for something we're going to address shortly. Like I said, this popping in and out and darting back and forth, this just very different presentation is recurrent with all of this footage that I found online. I should point out too, I'm not surprised to see this because this is stuff I capture myself all the time. It's actually gratifying to see that, it's not just me that's capturing this stuff. I just think that people aren't really paying attention and looking at their own footage in detail.
So this object here, I think, is a saucer as well. I mean, it does appear as that silver orb, but it just looks brighter, and it's moving left and right and all that. And I don't know, we've seen these things turn from this colour to a darker orb, and then into a saucer. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to know. But John's making a fair point there of saying people aren't checking their footage properly. It's not that they're not, well, they aren't checking it properly. It's because they don't know what they're looking for as well. And it's so easy to dismiss these things, especially from a long distance. But we've got close up here. So, yeah, let's keep going, folks.
And slowing it down and really considering what they have captured. This is another dude I sort of want to apologize to. He didn't ask to be featured in this way, and in this presentation, and I think I'm gonna make an effort to figure out how to blur people's faces out. Yeah, but I mean, in fairness, he also put himself on the internet, so I mean, what are you gonna do? If you're motivated and you try hard enough, you can come up with an explanation for anything. But when something starts blinking like this, I mean, and a lot of those explanations just fall away. They just do, and then you're stuck having to acknowledge that you just don't know what you're seeing. I mean, listen, I look at stuff like this, and I'm like, well, it's happening, it's there, and I have no clue what it is, but it's still there. We spent a lot of time way up in the sky. We're going to come down low for a moment.
So, if anyone does want to do any more research on those silver orbs, the Energy Pocket video on my channel, there's more that we learn in that video where it's these things are creating a distortion in the sky, and then they're aiming for that distortion. It's kind of like creating a pulse. Like, I want to go to that area, and then boom, it arrives at the distortion. It's incredible. Check it out. I've changed the contrast. It's really clear. And when I first saw it, it freaked me the hell out. Freaked me the hell out.
I think this is pretty self-explanatory footage, but I mean, you got two things moving really quick, and neither of them have any evident sign of propulsion. And as to the one further away, it's going behind the wings, so we know it's not something passing the camera closely. All right, we're going back up in the sky. This is another GoPro video from a wingsuit, and I paused it here because you can see on the left bottom there's a dark object, and then directly above it is a light object. The light one goes away, just like that fast. And also note this ill-defined outer perimeter. This is recurrent also. Like, you can't get clear imagery of these things. Now, as you watch this light one just blink out there, which is really crazy, I just want to point out too that, in slow motion, it turns out that wingsuit people look just like wingsuit people, just slower. This does not look like that. Okay, so I'm the first one to admit that's really tough to see in real time, especially with the GoPro, mounted on the helmet and the person moving their head back and forth. I get it. But that's also why I showed you me hitting those black beans at the beginning of this. These anomalies are on camera. It's literally just a matter of looking for them. All right, so, this one, I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to make of any of these, but so this is slowed, very slow. This thing is in one frame. It's above the cloud layer. So, yeah.
How many times? How many times have we seen it, folks? Just the quick flashes of light in the sky, and it's something to do with them because we're watching the orbs and the sources flying around, and then all of a sudden, flickers of light like this. They're never alone up there, folks. Honestly, I think we'd be completely shocked if they were to reveal themselves. Our skies would be teeming with these things. And it's quite worrying actually that they can all be up there and we don't even know about it. Well, we do, but we don't see them clearly. We don't see them operating clearly. We're only catching snippets. So that's why it's important you subscribe to John's channel. Make sure you do, folks.
I don't know what to make of this. And when you have one frame of something, you don't know if it's going left, right, up, down, blinking in, out. There's no point of reference because it's only one frame. It's just however your brain decides to interpret it. I look at the apparent texture and, I want to call it a not cloud. But then again, it's like I said, it's above the cloud layer. So I don't know. Okay, so we're going to address these camera artifacts. You recall this one I asked you to look at and keep in mind. Same thing with this one. It's a different capture, but same concept, right? So look, this is what this looks like when this is actually coming into existence and then existing and then going back out of existence. It's literally what it looks like when it's happening. When you're this close to it, it looks pretty dynamic and different, anomalous maybe. But then you back out and you see it like this, and you obviously understand what it is. Now, the reason I'm taking the time to walk you through this is because I want to contrast the way this presents with this, which is totally different and actually anomalous. And if you're wondering why this footage is rotating rather than descending, it's because this was footage captured from a high altitude balloon, which was actually ascending. Okay, probably the craziest part of this presentation is this. So we are pausing here, so you see this person in a wingsuit. It looks to be yellow, and they're getting ready to descend. The cameraman looks away, looks back, and you see the one in the yellow clearly descending. Now, Just continue watching that guy in the yellow. Yeah, so somehow he descended and then came back up and is no longer in yellow and no longer looks to be wearing a wingsuit. Now the cameraman looks to his left, then looks back, and now that thing's gone. Okay, so obviously we gotta go back over this more closely. So watch the person in yellow. So when we zoom in and really look at this, it starts to get very strange. So they're pixelating there, pixelating again there. Now they split in two, and there's two yellows somehow. Goes back to one yellow, splits again. Now there's two, one there, one above it. It comes back into one, and then it seems to start coming up again. Pixelates more there, continues up, and then seems to shed the yellow, and then comes up and is now black. And by the time it gets to the clear blue sky, there's no yellow, there's no wingsuit, it's just a black thing, pixelating and going up. And then in the bottom middle, something else pops up, and then that splits off. And this is what that looks like in case you missed it. It comes up and it turns from 1 to 2 to 3, maybe 4. That's tough to tell, but that also happened right there. And then we go back to this view of it, and then more pixelation on the black thing. The other thing goes back, condensed into one, and then the black thing sprouts a friend, and then goes up into the sky, and we're left with this opaque single orb. And so, just to be clear, I'm not advancing a theory. This is color commentary and something I'm watching. I mean, I'm pausing here where it's weirdly pixelated and then it's splitting again. I just don't understand why this is on camera happening. And I watched a lot of wingsuit video and I didn't see a single occurrence of somebody descending and then ascending again up to clear blue sky level. I just did not see it a single time. And so the confluence of this pixelation, the coloration change, and then the ascension is just very, very different. And so, suffice it to say, I am confused by the fact that we started out with a human being in a yellow and black wingsuit descending, and then somehow or another, within a matter of seconds, it went from that to this. Okay, we're going to leave whatever that was. This is our last parachuter, and
That's just mind-boggling, isn't it? So he's seen a parachuter descending, starting their descent to the ground, start pixelating, splitting into two, then going back to one, and then ascending up, back up, and becoming this one orb with, and then it distorts and starts sprouting friends. So I think, mate, if what you're seeing is what you're seeing, and that's what I've just what you've shown is exactly what you're saying. It looks like they're learning to mimic. It looks like they're mimicking us, like they mimic the birds and they mimic the bugs. But that's just mimicry on a whole new level. Come off it. Right, moving on.
we have one of these, which seems to be an orb or white energy ball of some sort, and then we have two of these things, which who knows what they are. So you see the white orb here at the 9 o'clock position going from right to left, and then at the top center is one of those black things, and then another one emanates right to left toward the bottom. And again, I should point out, I'm not suggesting that they're necessarily moving that direction. I'm using this language to help you spot them. They could be, in space, emanates right to left toward the bottom.
Sorry, folks. As John was talking then, and he's showing us these objects. What's that? Look over here where the mouse cursor is, folks. I thought it might be a bit of cloud. Look. Look. Is that a lens flare coming off his camera? It moves off the camera. What are we looking at here, folks? John, let me know what your thoughts are. Is that a lens flare? I tell you what, at normal speed, it looks really weird. Yeah. Let me know what that was, John. If you thought that was a lens flare or not. Could have been. And yeah, we're just more of these objects are just everywhere, aren't they? And we're seeing them in Norfolk, we're seeing them in Wales, we're seeing them near Gosport down south, we're seeing them in Scotland, we're seeing them in America, just all over the place. And what the hell are they? What are they doing up in our skies? What are these orbs that these things fire out? And the portals that they take that are made or created or appear in the sky, where do they come from? Where do they take us? So many questions. What's flying these things? What's the goal? What's the purpose? I tell you what, folks, something is happening. We're seeing these so much, and our cameras are picking them up. We're seeing it time and time again. Look at that. I mean, that looks like just looks like the Wales video. It looks like it could be taken from Wales. It looks exactly the same as what we were seeing. Look at that. It's just incredible. And these objects are changing shapes as they're moving. They've got other objects circling and surrounding them, staying in close proximity. And I'll tell you now, folks, whenever there's one that you see in the sky, there are more around it. Always. There always are, and if you look hard enough, you do find them. They're everywhere. And it's... yeah. Incredible. It splits off into two. Goes invisible. We've seen this happen many times as well. What the hell? What the hell are we looking at, folks? What is it? This is some super natural entity that we just do not understand. And there you go. When I said that they're not, never alone. Look at this. The black object just zooming past there. There you go. Unbelievable. And I think the more that people are aware that these things are out there, that's when the big questions can be asked. It's when we can point the funds in the right direction. Start communicating. Just try and work it out. Try and work out what's going on. Maybe they already know, but they're not letting the secret out, folks. So we need to find out. It's too big to just let go and say, oh, they'll figure it out. They won't tell us, honestly. Look, flash of light there, right in the centre of the plane, and then this thing comes, and this looks exactly like we just saw in East Texas, Tony Franklin. he videoed something very similar. Shoots right across the sky, right over where he was, and it's blinking, and then it goes fast, and then it slows down towards the end. It's, you know. Oh, okay. That blinking might have been from the plane itself. I thought I saw a much larger flash of light. But it could just be from the plane. I don't know. Or it could be that that thing has just flown past and done something to that plane, tagged it. Whatever it is it's doing. Let's see what John's got to say on that, actually, because I don't know.
Is allowed to be in the air at the same time. But the reason I mention that is, I've ever been to one air show. It was in Van Nuys, California, and the stealth bomber did some flyovers in the early 1990s. But the reason I mention that is to say, I assume that there are rules, aerial rules, that are in play when there's an air show. Like, in other words, if this is some benign, mundane interaction, why is whatever this is allowed to be in the air at the same time that these things are in the air? Okay, so digressing from that point, early on we showed this and I told you we're going to revisit it. These dots that are like propulsion echoes or trails, I don't know what they are, and I said we're going to see it again. So here's the again. The only things that we record that exhibit this tendency are the things that we cannot explain or identify. Okay, moving on. Bottom middle to the left, you see this white thing, and then on the right side now, you see it even brighter. So this is zoomed in, and I paused both frames just so you can see it. This is at regular distance, but also slowed and paused so you can see it. So this thing happens so fast, and that's why I'm taking the time to kind of set your eye so you know what to look for. But after that occurs, then this occurs. And now this is what those two events look like in real time. You know, I made this analogy once before in a prior presentation, but basically I said before the invention of the microscope, the microbial world was unknown to us. And now I feel like we're looking at the same thing. It's the same scenario, but with regard to speed rather than size.
They've totally got us down, haven't they? They know how to evade us. And the amount of people that I'll show a video to, I'll post on Facebook, and the amount of people that are genuinely interested in UAPs, UFOs, and they genuinely believe, will look at footage like this and go, what a load of rubbish. Honestly, this is what we're dealing with. They know.
You know, generally speaking, I think I'm like a more information is better.
They know how to evade us.
If I was going to become a pilot and I was going to flight school, I would really, really want somebody to be like, "Hey, man, just so you know, there are these things zipping around out there, up in the sky, and we can't control them or do anything about them. Just, you know, FYI." Yeah, falls into that category of, you know, who knows? Because I mean, there's like the pencils. You know, there's no visible sign of propulsion, stabilization. I mean, and they're going so fast, right? It's like how as an aviator could you avoid something that's moving that quickly? There's no chance. But check this out too. So on the other side of that same plane, this was also happening at the same time. Just, you know, in terms of depth, it seems like it was further away. But even before that one goes up, this one comes down.
So much going on, and they're never alone.
So here's the wide angle in real time, and this is what all that looked like together. All this stuff is happening over our heads, and we just don't know it because our brains and eyes aren't geared to observe speeds like this. Because of the colors involved here, this is pretty hard to see, so I basically paused it on each frame where this subject is visible.
It's ridiculously close. Ridiculously close to that plane.
I mean, at the risk of sounding repetitive, the speeds are just out of control. I mean, this is just bananas fast. And the funny thing too is that we're not even addressing why are they doing whatever they're doing. Like the fact that we're able to continually capture this tells you that this is repetitive behavior. So like what are they doing? So there's two different things going on here, one in the foreground and one not in the foreground. And we started at real speed just to see if your eye kind of catches it. But here it is. That one in the distance is barely perceptible, but it is moving so fast. I mean, this is still 60 frames per second. Like, if you accept the proposition that things in the distance appear to be moving more slowly than things closer, then you have to question how fast that white thing is moving.
That's just ridiculous speeds, isn't it? I know, like John said it enough times, I say it enough times, you're talking 2,000 plus miles an hour. These things are just rocketing through the skies, and it's impossible. When they're moving that fast, they don't even need to go invisible, folks. You wouldn't see them anyway, but they can go invisible. And that's the worrying thing. We see these objects blinking in and out, and I've seen them just completely vanish. Gone. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And yeah, look how it mimics a bug, folks. Look how that could look to anyone, and that will look to anyone who's not done any research on this topic like a bug. And we see it time and time again. And the thing is, you could take 100 videos, and 80 of them might be bugs, or 80 of them might be UAPs. Until you dig deep, you just don't know. And look, what's John saying about it?
The fact that you cannot get a clear image of them is very perplexing. All right, well, there you have it, folks. I know it was kind of long, but it could have been longer.
For sure, mate. It could have gone on much longer. We've got so much evidence between us, and along with custodian file as well, and many others. We could just keep looking and looking. Not to mention the footage that we find online, stuff we find on social media that people don't pick up on. Just like yesterday's video out of South Philadelphia, we had one video. People were like, "Look at the moving cloud," but they didn't look at the 2 or 3 UAPs that were darting past the cloud, which was confirmation for me that it was real. And that's really important, folks. Like and subscribe to Latchkey Hustle. John's doing a really good job. He's got loads of videos on there. They're worth checking out, every single one of them, folks. Let's get him to 500 subscribers, folks. And if you like what I'm doing, if you support disclosure, if you believe in everything that we're saying, follow me on Rumble, and follow me and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Undercover ET UK. Also, join the Facebook group, Undercover ET UK, UFO/UAP evidence. Introduce yourself, get uploading, folks. We love putting out credible evidence, and if it's any good, we'll stick it on the channel. With that said, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye for now.